Let's do it. Take 2.
Why don't we use neural networks so much? Because you go online. We also have the discussions with clients a lot. You go online, you watch some TED Talks, and now you have to leave with the impression that, neural networks, which is a very complex algorithm that can learn from a lot of data and then provide really accurate results, that they're going to change the world so much, and that every company should have them. And the clients keep asking, okay, are we going to do this with a neural network? Very often the answer is no, because we don't have enough data. They scale well. That means that they can provide better and better results if we feed them with millions and millions of images or other data sources. And this is just an issue that we face with a lot of clients. They don't have the data.
Yeah.
So machine learning changed the world in terms of, now understanding of the problem is actually as important as getting a lot of data for having accurate algorithms. And just a very few companies in the world actually have enough data for efficiently using the power of the full-scale machine learning. And plus it's usually trained on graphics cards, and those are very expensive. I once went to a talk in a conference where guys from Google were presenting results of their neural network that was run on 1,280 GPUs. 1,280 GPUs. And they issued a paper. There was a conference paper, as actually goes to the question number 2, a favorite math joke. Well, so we just ran the algorithm 25,000 times, and this is the best setup. I was like, okay, good. We at Avast had 4 graphics cards at that time for training our networks. So, the scale in which they were able to use the full power was much bigger than what we had available. But Avast wasn't a small company at the time. Okay, I'm finished.
Sure?
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Adam. What is practical example of uses of blockchain versus the traditional technology where traditional is more expensive or cannot be used? Well, I think that here we know our blockchain master.
From my perspective, blockchain is just a small piece in a puzzle when you are trying to solve, kind of rare issue. So it's not very common that you would need such a technology. It can make sense generally in situation when you have some area where you need to have monopoly, but you don't want to have it controlled by a small group of entrepreneurs or something like that. But if you don't need it, or it's not a problem to have a small group of people controlling that, then it's just wasting resources. So in most of the cases, and if you see currently there is over 10,000 of different tokens and coins, I would say that 99% of them are basically nonsense. From my perspective, I believe that there are some theoretical use cases, like in the far future, maybe if you don't have a state, then you could make a register for the real estate. But for now, there's no issue with current registry. It works fine, so I don't see any reasoning for that. Then theoretically, again, as an NFT in gaming, meaning that you buy some skin, how your avatars look like, there's as well small potential theoretically, but I wouldn't invest in that either. Another one that has already boomed mostly in 2017 are those ICOs. It brings some value from my perspective because it enables you to overcome the regulation. So, for example, you can bring the business to more people. You can allow to whoever wants to invest in the new startups. So you can just issue some token that are basically stocks of your company, and it's easy to share that, to distribute that, sell that, and so on. Do all the mechanics on top of that. But again, it works in some period of time. Once the regulation is improved to be more reasonable, this opportunity is diminishing again. So, but currently it helps in some projects, so it might be useful. and there's a lot of projects that are actually helping people. But the most crucial one that I would put over 99% of the effort into is the Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is solving the issue of the global currency. Because I think that there is need to have global currency, that we want to express all the goods in one currency, and it currently is kind of dollar, even though it's not the whole world is dollarized until now. But there's a big issue with them having the power over the dollar. So there are many people. There are some. It's basically not fair. So once I believe there's a huge place for Bitcoin, it bringing back the logic, the information value into money. It's lowering the speculation potential with other assets like stocks or real estate, as I mentioned. And most relevant for most of the people, from my perspective, is that reopening the whole segment of pension system, of saving into something that will be valuable in the long term.
Okay. We have one question. Let's
Yes. Hello guys. Just a quick one. Not sure if it's the subject of discussion, but I'm kind of interested or curious why Bitcoin, not the other altcoins like Ethereum or Ether?
I partially tried to already answer that in this few sentences, but there's a lot of reasons. One of them is, for example, Lindy effect. So that the Bitcoin is at the space for the longest time. So there's it's the most stable one. It has the best story. It's the basically only coin I know that is not that where we don't know who's the not owner who just started that. And it's most decentralized. Actually, most of the coins that you can see, they are having a lot of bugs. So, as you mentioned, Ethereum, there's nobody in the world currently who knows what is the total supply of Ethereum. For example, Ethereum is changing their view every, I would say, 2 years. What is the main proposition? However, the proposition in Bitcoin is same for the 12 years now. So it's stable in all terms. So, for example, Ethereum is changing their policy quite often regarding the monetary policy. They are changing the rules. They are doing hard forks and so on.
Could you be a bit more specific what it was about?
Yeah. Again, the proposition of Web3 was evolving at the time. It's one of the issues with all those tokens, that it's not stable and better. Basic idea behind Web3 was that you will become owner of your data. So whatever you are telling about yourself on the internet, you will be able to store that with an valid storage, and you would be offering that to companies, so they would be able to target their advertisement on you based on your truly interests, and you would be paid for that. So it's kind of only workaround for not paying Facebook and Google and rather paying directly the customer. And there were a few other streams within the proposition, but I perceive that this one was the crucial. And sorry, just briefly, I would like to highlight a few others. We were working on a few other projects at Switzerland, like Signal and SEPA. That was the first bank doing the account with Bitcoin and a few other cryptocurrencies. And we were cooperating with Satoshi Labs. It wasn't the technical part of cooperation, but yeah, we were in touch with them at least.
What technologies, programming language libraries do you use for big data or neural network, and why?
And why? Why is the right question?
Annika, can I have a brief answer for that?
Of course.
Yeah, because I'm programming for, let's say, 1 year or something, and I'm using Python for that. I have few libraries, it's not interesting, but the reason why I do is because Adam told me. So that's it.
Yes.
Nick is talking.
Nick is talking.
Thank you.
Hi everybody. I mean, we use bunch of different technologies and algorithms. We use convolutional neural networks. We used some NLP. We used linear regressions for sure. Decision tree, like linear regressions. Decision tree we use for insurance projects because it has to be interpretable. So you cannot, as Adam already said, use neural network. And for image recognition or text processing, we used NLP and convolutional neural networks. That's what actually I personally used, and most of the code we wrote was in Python. Different libraries, PyTorch, TensorFlow, TensorFlow, SciPy. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow. Okay. The only one that I have in my brain is Python, and that's it. And
there is a bunch of them. And it's a really huge landscape. It's a zoo garden. If you talk specifically about neural networks, and thank you, Nick, for the contribution, then one of the advantages is that they live in layers, and each layer is layered with the neurons, which are the small processing units, and they go more specific as you go deeper and deeper in the neural network. Well, it's usually depicted the other way around, but for me, it's you go deeper, they get more specific, and they train. Each layer has more specific features. So once you train them on images, for example, then the first layer is going to be able to recognize just a couple of dots in each of the image. It's very general. Then the next layer is also going to be able to recognize, lines or some specific patterns, but still no cats. And then the next layer learns to put those small features together into something round, something which looks like an eye, and then it goes deeper and deeper, and it creates more and more specific patterns. So if you don't have enough data for training the network, like we said before, training a network is very demanding on bunch of data you have to have. You can just download a pre-trained network, and this also goes in a direction if you want to experiment with it. If you want to learn a bit more about neural networks, then you can basically just download something which got 8 layers, cut it off at the 4th layer, and then connect your own specific and retrain it. So you have half of the job done, and it is well published and is described in literature, both scientific and business literature. So if you want to read up on it, don't start by your own, you can start by your own by training on there is something which is called a MNIST, which is 65,000 written numbers. That's the first algorithm or the first data set that people use for, just experimenting with the neural networks, and it's a lot of fun because then eventually you push it up to 98% and you're happy because you're becoming a data scientist and the world is pink and a lot of unicorns, just rainbow. Well, the real world is a bit more complex, but this is a good start, and people should be starting with a high motivation. And you would usually find these technologies. Any library that you take will have some kind of a training data. I myself prefer TensorFlow because it's a bit more complex, but it was published by Google when I started to learn about neural networks. It was the first one because it was brand new and we're all really excited. It's actually something that pushed me to switch from C++ to Python, because then C++ became entirely obsolete.
What?
What?
Slow down. I was like C++.
C++. No, I was working in C++, and then when TensorFlow came out, it was in Python, so I had to switch to Python. And you can choose any of the technologies that Nick listed before. Just make sure that you work on either something that was pre-trained, prepared, and you see how it works, or well, take something easy like the NIST data set and experiment with it. It's going to bring you a lot of fun, and we can help you start the environment. Like show you the basics of Python if you're interested.
I
saw him before. He might have left, but there is a server with prepared to Python notebooks, and I don't think that all 30 people in the call are going to rush to the DevOps and tell them, hey, give us access and we want to experiment with that. But if you're really dedicated, you want to have some fun, and you don't want to start Python or any of these technologies on your own, we have an experimentation server where you can just connect to a Python environment, and it should be running out of the box. So use this capacity that was prepared by our DevOps.
Yeah, Martin is on.
Martin is on. Martin, would you mind to comment? He's on and not listening, right?
He's very silent.
I don't know. Those introverted people.
Actually, maybe I don't know if I may. I believe that there are even now much simpler ways how to start with that, like using DeepNote or even Colab on Google or something like that. So you don't have to play around with the environments and so on. Or you can use Jupyter Notebook locally on your computer. So
that's also quite easy. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's much easier to overcome that.
Okay, DeepNote. Sounds interesting.
DeepNote is cool.
Sounds interesting and easy. Will artificial intelligence destroy us?
I think we should first take a poll in the call. So who are things that is going to destroy us? Raise the hands now, please. Even in the call, I want to see the results. Got 1, 2, 3. Like the real artificial intelligence, the most efficient one, is only done by a few companies. Like 1% of all the companies in the world are able to have this big technological push. And it is maybe one of the issues that we'll be facing, because they will be becoming more and more powerful. And now getting data is also one of the difficult issues. And for example, here in Europe, with GDPR, we can scan faces of everyone and just feed it to a private company for training the algorithms. While in China, they're already doing it. So they have much more data for training the neural networks algorithm. So they will eventually reach more precision, and they will probably be able to be more precise in their algorithm training for facial recognition and all related industries than Europeans. And now they're of course going to use it for first economic leverage, yes. And second of all, how are we going to treat algorithms that were trained with, for us, illegally obtained data? Are we going to allow our companies to use them, to buy them, or are we going to have some kind of a background check on every artificial intelligence algorithm that is going to be sold to Europe from a third party or a third country? Third meaning not economically, but simply not a EU member. And once you have a lot of potential for training the algorithms, and you only have a few companies that collect the data now, of course they're doing it because they know that in future this is going to be the most valuable asset, or it maybe even is now the most valuable asset. Having data, people say data is new oil. And you know, I mean, people fight for oil. So that's also going to bring about a certain concentration of the production capabilities. So the companies that have the most data now will probably have more and more data, while other companies might fall off the market. So this is also going to be a security issue, and we should really start a serious conversation about how we treat AI algorithms and how we treat a collection of data, because otherwise we might be running into a world where the power is concentrated somewhere else. And this, of course, could be a security issue. So destroying, like in a sci-fi movie where, you know, the big robots come eventually and they learn to hate the humans, I don't think so.
But destroying economically,
and creating more economical disparities in the world. Yes, this is one of the key points of the next 20-30 years of legislature.
I think that, yeah.
I would be optimistic, meaning that if we are having this big company, for example, as you mentioned, Adam, that Google is having most of the processing power and so on. there were many monopoly in late history, like in 90s, Nokia with mobile industry and so on. And most of them are not capable of last with that for a longer period. They are losing that in a period of time.
Can we replay this in 50 years, please?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
The AI future.
Interesting point with algorithms and robots is that the human brain has different versions of intelligence. You got the emotional intelligence, you got verbal intelligence, you got problem-solving skills, you got planning skills. Some of them are easier to be mimicked by a computer, and some of them are much more difficult to be mimicked by a computer. And like what is Annika actually describing is that a robot didn't even, you wouldn't even expect to show it empathy.
Yeah.
It's inhumane in terms of not being human. So, are we ever going to be able to replace a teacher with a robot?
Hopefully not.
I don't think so.
Hopefully
because the
not.
kids it's not just about passing on knowledge.
But
It is also about having a human touch to your psychical development when you're a teenager.
But they're actually teaching her some like face mimics and like movements to be more human.
Well, if that works, it's going to be really scary.
Definitely. I don't want to have a teacher, robot teacher. That would be weird.
But you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, okay.
And you already have YouTube, don't you?
It's true. Oh yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, it was I saw the question in chat. What about empathy and emotions?
Empathy and emotions.
Like,
okay.
Emotions, that's a tricky part, because you never know what kind of emotions the other person has. So we only infer emotions from behavior, and since behavior is somewhat a superficial set of features in your face, in your voice, in your gestures, then the robot might be able to learn them. It will not learn emotions. As far as I know, this shouldn't be possible, especially because we don't know where they come from in the brain. So we can not really replicate that internal behavior, but we can replicate the perceived, the actual behavior, which is a communication between two people. So there is a difference to emotions and to how we perceive them on a face or on a body or on any actions of the other person. Empathy as well, and I mean, we choose to whom we give our empathetic reactions. If we choose to give them to robots, then maybe that will be possible, but I hope my life was not going to be long enough, so I wouldn't like to see that really. And plus, when we talk about destroying us also, I said before that machine learning works in terms that you give it results and it learns some kind of way to achieve these results from what happened before. If you give a robot a optimization result, remove hunger, remove tired people, it might go and make them happy, or it might go and make them vanish. Because the result is going to be the same, and now we don't really see how they work from the inside, especially those very complex neural networks. We do not see how they work from the inside.
Yeah,
think about the risk models for a bank again. And now, if we screw it up and we create robots that are powerful enough, chances are that we'll really have to fight them. But it's all about the optimization. And maybe we should also mention that we structure the data team in a way that it is somewhere between hard technical development and business. So it's somewhat of a missing link between those who are like real programmers, developers, and those who do business analysis, business decisions. Because none of us is really the greatest programmer in the world, and I say that with all knowledge that I did some programming. But yes, I mean it's but come on, I do just half of the time now. But it's really important to bring in this statistical, economical, and also programming and automatization knowledge into one team, and then have the people cooperate and we used to say as a joke that a data scientist is an analyst who moved to San Francisco. data analysts who wanted to be cooler, and once you live in Silicon Valley, you obviously have to be more cool. So they created a new word for that. And it's, by the way, the only job description or position in IT branch that has something to, has a science in its name, which sounds stupid because then, I mean, software engineer is also a software scientist. But they just obviously have less ego and more reasonability not to call themselves in this stupid way. I'm jealous. What we did in 2011, I mean, I myself was studying mathematics, and I might not be the only one. It's a new job description. In 2011, if you just imagine, do you remember Facebook in 2011? Facebook is one of the companies that is collecting the most of the data, Facebook and Google. And now, did you Google something in 2011? Did you really find the results? Did you have Gmail, or did you still work on Cessnam, or did you have another provider? So what I'm trying to say that most of the companies just didn't have these huge amounts of data that we see nowadays. And I've also seen one of the questions down in line, what is the big data? My favorite definition is that it's data that doesn't fit into the memory of your computer. So it might start, depends on what kind of machine you have, and anywhere between 8 and 16 or 32 gigabytes. But it's also a lot about the structure, and the structure of data used to be easier. Now we collect data about everything that people do online. And I bought my first smartphone my first smartphone in 2015, and ever since I've been providing my data to the world like all the time, right? I mean, Google always sends me this list of places I visited, and first I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then I was like, no, that's not really amazing, that's pretty fucking scary. Because someone in the US knows that, I had a beer at 11 p.m. in Liberec, and that's, wow.
Should be scary.
My favorite is the Facebook, what did you do 5 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
And then you were like, oh, God, no. Why?
Could you please stop reminding me that I used to be young?
Could you please erase it, like now?
So data science didn't exist in 2011 because it wasn't needed. But
what's the collection?
Nor was data engineering, because we didn't have that much data to process in all the infrastructure. And my former boss at Avast boasted with a story that in 2002 he wanted to read a script on neural networks, and the only one that was available at the time was in Russian. And neural networks wasn't a thing in 2002. Because it was just, you wouldn't need it because you didn't have this fuckload of images online, and you wouldn't need image search because you didn't have Google. I mean, you did, but obviously not the way it works now. So the leverage of data science is increasing year by year. The amount of data is increasing year by year, and it is becoming less and less a landscape that we can understand. So it is very algorithmical, it is very mathematical, because you just, with your plain reason, with a plain human brain, you get no way of actually understanding what kind of data that is and how to connect it. So there are even going to be more specializations within the data science. And if you ask what data science is going to be doing in 2031, when in 1900 you would have just a general practitioner medicine.
It's like the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, Adam?
Oh, yeah. Holidays. Please.
Improved by not only that we will be able to dig in deeper, get more specialized, but on the, let's say, basic layer, it will be more accessible to most of the people. So I believe that regular people will be able to do more of the data-related tasks by themselves.
Creative Doc. Start innovating with us today. From idea to scale.